Welcome to another Coach Conversation. Today's episode is about the B word, bitterness. I hope that today you will be able to reflect on some of the things I share and determine whether you believe you are bitter or if you discover that you are, maybe we can find a cure for it or some ways to deal with it productively so that it doesn't continue to steal your joy and your happiness. So let's start out by defining bitterness. Bitterness is usually associated with some type of emotional pain, some type of hurt, some type of action that was taken against you, or words that were said to you that were very hurtful, and you became very angry. Anger is usually the first or the beginning of bitterness because if you harbor that anger too long, it usually forms a type of bitterness toward that person or the one that offended you. Bitterness is an emotional pain that we will relate to, but it's also a form of resentment. And we resent those who have hurt us by not letting go or forgiving them. That is usually the first way to begin healing of bitterness or being free of bitterness is to start by forgiving the one that offended you. For instance, it could be a friend, it could be a spouse, it could be a coworker, it could be a family member, a sibling. It doesn't matter the relationship, but it normally starts out as anger in some form. And some of the ways that we hold on to it is because we think it's going to help us heal or protect our heart from being hurt again. But all it really does is spew more bitterness, which is a toxic emotion. It's like poison. It can undermine your physical health. Constantly being angry is a source of bitterness, and it's one of the reactions to bitterness. There are so many things that can trigger bitterness. Even if you are bitter in the present, there are some things in your past that can trigger it as well. And that's when you know you definitely have the B word, also known as bitterness in this case. The signs that you may be bitter: you think you deserve more than what you get or what you have in life and love. You don't feel satisfied, with your present achievements. You think everyone is out to get you. You may even be paranoid to some degree. You don't acknowledge other people's skills. You find it hard to compliment others or to be happy for others when they are experiencing an event of some type of happiness or joyful occasion. It's hard for you to congratulate others, even your friends, on their success. You don't find it easy to be happy for them in their moment of whatever their happiness may be contributed by at that time. You find it hard to be celebratory along with them. And there are ways you can, cure your bitterness or hope for your bitterness to be cured from the bitterness and resentment. You start by forgiving others. And like I said, bitterness usually forms because you haven't forgiven someone for the offense. And so the longer you harbor the unforgiveness, the more the bitterness will set in. And if you don't deal with it, or if you don't deal with the anger, which is where it all began, or the hurt where it all began, that's when the root of bitterness continues to sprout and grow within you. And the bitterness becomes your way of thinking, your way of living, your way of life, which is not a full life of joy or peace. You have to think positively about those you resent. Find one good thing that you can think or say about them that will help, rid you of the negative thoughts you have toward that person or that you have about them in your mind. Because all of our thoughts are formed in our mind, in our consciousness. And if you think about anything too long, it becomes an action or a way of thinking. You begin to try and appreciate them, even if you don't like it, or even if you don't feel like you like them, or if you don't feel like doing so. Try to do it anyway. It's like trying to find the good in others or the good in that person. And I believe that if you look hard enough, you'll find it. Something good about that person or something good to say. Don't stalk them. I'm not saying everyone does it, but obviously there are people that you feel like you can't stand to that degree that you just observe them all the time. No matter where they are, what they're saying, or what they're doing, you find yourself focusing on them instead of what's going on around you or whoever's around you. You tend to just gear your thoughts toward that person and the resentment that you feel for them. Try to celebrate with them, especially if it's someone close to you, a family member or a friend that you've known a long time. Try to celebrate their celebrations instead of being unhappy for their happiness. Prevent yourself from talking bad about them. The longer you talk about a person or a situation, the longer it will stay on your mind and in your thoughts. And the sooner you stop talking about it, even if it's gossip, the sooner you stop talking about it, it will stop spreading. And you will cease feeling that way, or you will cease being preoccupied with that person or with those thoughts about that person. You have to stop thinking about it, stop talking about it, and before you know it, you won't. The best way to kill a plant is to stop watering it. So if you talk about that issue or that person or that negativity, that's where you will stay. I know that for a fact. I've done it before. And I had to renew my mind, renew my thoughts through God's word or through actually thinking about something positive as opposed to something negative consistently. Focus on improving yourself. That's where we should always start. Even when I have a problem with someone or something I think someone may have said or done, I try to start with me. Why did I take it that way? Why did I feel that way? Why did I let it affect me that way? And so I find myself thinking about more of my way of dealing with it as opposed to hurting ongoing, having an ongoing distaste for that person. And if you improve yourself, which is the only person you can change anyway, you're better off in the long run. You win. But if you hold on to bitterness or grudges, you give that person that kind of control. You give them power over you, over your emotions, over your joy, over your peace, and they win. So take back your control. Be control of your own thoughts and your emotions. Don't let anyone ruin it for you. And pray for them. I know that's the hard part. I've had to do it before. And the last thing I wanted to do for that person at that time was pray for them. But God's word says, pray for your enemies. Pray for them that persecute you. And I've actually had to do that. And it was so hard. One of my friends told me, well, pray for them. And I remember it was a situation I was going through years ago, with a friend. And they were actually a coworker who I thought was my friend, and that was far from the truth, I came to realize. But when I was asked to pray for them, I joked. I said, what? I said, what am I going to pray, that a building falls on them? And I know that sounds harsh, but that's where I was at that time. That's how bitter I was. And that was not a healthy response, but honestly, it's how I felt at the time. Of course, I did begin to pray for that person, and the bitterness did cease. I was actually able to love them from God's perspective, knowing that He didn't withhold His forgiveness for me. So how can I withhold my forgiveness for that person or anyone? And it was definitely a lesson learned for me. I realized that you can love those who hurt you, offend you, or persecute you. But you can't do it in your own strength. Now, you can have a lot of positive thinking, but you have to put action to those thoughts. I'm not saying you have to sit down and entertain them or invite them over for dinner, because the association with that person doesn't have to be a factor any longer. All you have to do is your part, the part that you're responsible for, and that is forgiving them, and if you can, praying for them. It may start out as a short prayer, But just be honest with yourself because God already knows the truth. So be honest about your feelings and pray about those as well. And soon, you will be over it before you know it. You'll wake up one day and realize, I didn't think about that today. I didn't even think about that person. And that's when you know the healing has begun. And you do that as many times as necessary, no matter who makes you angry, no matter who makes you bitter, no matter who causes the bitter. You repeat those steps over and over until finally the bitterness ceases and you win. So that's what I want to share with you today. Bitterness is just hurt, which is unresolved, unaddressed, prolonged, overdone, overkill, and you just have to let it stop. You just say enough is enough. I want peace. I want joy. I don't want that person having control over how I feel or how I think, even how I think about them. Because the best way, I believe, to overcome that type of negativity toward that person is to forgive them, pray for them, and love them unconditionally, even if it means from a distance. I've said before in my coach conversations, forgiveness can be accomplished. That means you release that person of any debt emotionally that you feel they owe you. Because you may not get an apology. They may not say they're sorry. They may not even know they hurt you. But if you know they hurt you, then allow that to just process. You can't rush it. I'm not saying you're going to get better overnight. But getting better is the goal. Getting better is the key. Because like I said, you want to heal. You don't want anyone to steal your joy by carrying and harboring bitterness against them. So I hope these ways I shared today will help you get better and not bitter. Because being bitter does not bring you any kind of fulfilled life. It doesn't bring you any joy, any consolation. So think about that person that you may have ill feelings about or toward right now. And when you think about them, think of a positive attribute about them, something that caused you to befriend them initially, and just consider that that's how you want to remember them. If that person who you were bitter toward is no longer here, I've always heard different pastors or counselors or therapists recommend that you pull up an empty chair, pretend that you're sitting across from that person, and you talk to them. You share your heart. You confess how you feel. Explain what happened that made you feel that way toward them or about them. And the more you express yourself, you're relieving yourself. It's like you're freeing yourself in order to forgive them. And even though they're not present, you're still able to confess and express how you feel. And that also will help you heal from bitterness and resentment and even unforgiveness toward that person. So thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed this coach conversation. I hope I said something that will help you overcome your bitterness. If you believe that you are experiencing bitterness right now toward someone, just keep being positive. Think about how you would benefit if you forgive that person. That way you're able to move on. You're able to love again, live again, laugh again. So focus on you and how you would benefit from forgiving someone, letting go of your bitterness, letting go of your anger. And do not allow anger or resentment to spew in you or brew in you. You're better than that. So remember, let's not get bitter. Let's get better. Thank you for joining me today for this episode of Life Coach for the Soul, episode Bitter versus Better. So get better, not bitter. Have a good day, and God bless you. Thank you. Bye-bye.